Day, working our way towards Wild Card Weekend, and the squad is ready to go. It is officially Haircut Day on Get Up. Neek is here. Dan Graziano, freshly short. Desmond Howard. And Ryan Clark, I hardly recognize you when you pop up this morning. Everybody got their haircut today. No one gave me the memo. But we begin with the news from Cleveland. It is a developing story, and it's not good. The Browns will be without their head coach, Kevin Stefanski, among others, in their wild card playoff matchup against the Steelers on Sunday night. Stefanski testing positive for COVID-19, along with two other coaches and two players, sources have told ESPN. And the Browns have released a statement that reads, in part, "Our facility is currently closed while contact tracing is taking place. The team will continue to consult with the league and medical experts to determine the appropriate next steps, as the health and safety of our players, coaches, staff, and the entire community remains our highest priority. Our contingency planning calls for special teams coordinator Mike Prefer to serve as the acting head coach." So we begin with our insider, Dan Graziano, who has been all over this story. What is the very latest the fans need to know as we look ahead to this game Sunday night?
Looking ahead, they reference the contact tracing, right? Everybody who's identified as a high-risk, close contact of the people who tested positive has to be away from the facility and the team for 5 days. However, that means those people could conceivably participate in Sunday in the playoff game, because 5 days would get them back on Saturday in time for that. So assuming there are no further positive tests, it's conceivable the Browns could reopen their facility later today or tomorrow and get back to work. In terms of the possibility of the game being postponed, I know that's a question a lot of people have. That would require a continuation of positive tests, probably multiple per day, like we saw in Baltimore in late November, when that game had to keep getting pushed back to ultimately a Wednesday. So obviously the hope is that that is not the case. So far, the contact tracing has revealed that that's probably not going to be the case, but we're going to continue to monitor the testing results today and tomorrow and Friday to make sure.
So again, to make it clear for the fans who I'm sure are wondering this, the protocols, the policies remain the same in the playoffs as the regular season,
yes,
which would mean that even if the Browns wind up playing this game significantly shorthanded on the field as well as the sideline, the game will go on.
They will not postpone a game for competitive reasons, only for health and safety reasons. If they deem it unsafe for the Browns to assemble as a team, that's when they have to talk about postponement. If they're shorthanded at a position group or on the coaching staff, that's not enough to get a game postponed. Same, you're right, as in the regular season.
Okay, so again, I approach everything from the standpoint of a fan, because that's all I've ever been. And all I can think of are those fans in Cleveland who have waited 18 years for the opportunity to see their team in the playoffs. And now this, I mean, it sort of breaks your heart a little tiny bit. Ryan Clark, I see you shaking your head. How would you describe the impact this has on their chances of winning the game?
This is a huge impact, Greeny. I don't know if there are 5 head coaches in the league who are more important to their team than Kevin Stefanski is. There hasn't been a Monday morning that Dan Orlowski, Rex Ryan, or I haven't come on this show and talked about how well Baker Mayfield played without tying it directly to Kevin Stefanski, his impact, his schematic mind, and also his play calling. That's every week we come in here saying Kevin Stefanski put Baker Mayfield in the best position to play good football. And when he plays good football, this team wins. And so not only are you losing a head coach, someone that delegates, understands the ebbs and the flows of the games and makes those huge decisions, but you're missing your play caller that's directly tied to the success of your offense, which has elevated this team to a playoff team for the first time in 18 years. This is a huge deal. This is worth points, and the Cleveland Browns have to figure out a way to bridge that gap without having their head coach and play caller there.
Absolutely. And Dominique, you were making the point this morning that this is just not something NFL teams are accustomed to having to deal with.
Right. I mean, we know how to deal with having a player out, because players are out often. Having coaches out is a new thing. That just started this season, so they can't be ready for it. And I think the in-game decisions, as far as like going for it on 4th down or when we go for 2 and those types of things, like that is science mostly. Like you can put together a sheet to tell people when the right time to do those things are. But game planning and calling plays and also adjusting in game. That's a science. That's something that you get used to doing. There's a process that you follow when you adjust to things that you see that the defense has done, and you see opportunities. That is a science. You can't just put somebody in there and tell them, well, if this happens, then this happens. It's not that simple. They're going to have a hard time bouncing back from losing the coach, not just because of his play calling, but because they're going to need to adjust. And playoff games are more about coaching than anything, any other regular season game. So the coaches are going to be at a vast disadvantage, which puts the players also at a disadvantage.
Right, and again, we'll wait and see as the tests continue to come in today and the rest of the week if any further players are affected by this. But Desmond, just without the head coach himself, and again, as RC and Neek said, the play caller, how big a deal is this to you as far as the Browns, your hometown team, having a chance to win this Sunday night?
Yeah, I feel sorry for the Browns fans because they've been waiting for this for so long, and then this opportunity presents itself, and now they have this hurdle to try to overcome it. The guy said it right. When you look at your head coach's mission, let's just keep this in context. Stefanski is a guy who's on the short list for Coach of the Year. I mean, that's the type of job he's done this season. When you have that conversation, his name is in the conversation. So it lets you know just how important he is to the success of the Cleveland Browns. And then when you connect him to Baker Mayfield, this guy who we've seen struggle, and we know, okay, this might be the answer. This is the coach that can get him on the right track, make him look like the player we saw in Oklahoma when he won the Heisman, and now you remove him from the equation totally. Then now you wonder, okay, is Baker Mayfield going to revert back to the guy who was making mistakes and had you scratch your head like, what was he looking at? Or is he going to be able to forge ahead? And number two, you have a head coach that makes gut-like decisions during a game. The guy